So I don't know how people are, but I think maybe we could have a kind of free for all for questions to both Luciano and Kirk, if that's okay. Let's try not curating your questions and see how it goes. And if it's too chaotic, then we'll curate you.
Yeah.
Try that. So,
Cool.
Who's first?
Yeah, Kirk, thank you for the presentation. Have you ever tried making a video and then split it up in still frames and then try to make a usable 3D scan out of that?
Yes, that's one thing I didn't go into. There is an import video option as well. So you could walk around. What I want to do, I want to capture something from the TV. So find something that's turning on the TV, capture a video of it, then put it into the software and see if I can get a 3D model from the 2D TV, just as a geeky, nerdy thing, you know. But I think in theory that kind of stuff would work. And then you could steal stuff from films or TV, which would be really cool. Yeah.
Can I ask a question to Kirk? Is that hello?
Yeah. How does that software that you use compare to Meshroom? I haven't used either.
I haven't used Meshroom a lot, but I've got links actually that I'll stick in. I use that because it's just very straightforward. You know, the way the links kind of move down. But I should imagine that I think Meshroom. I don't know whether I think it might be a little bit node based as well. So I think it probably is a bit more complicated, maybe a bit more powerful. I'm not sure. But yeah, I'm sorry, I haven't used Meshroom a lot.
I used Meshroom for a project up here in Glasgow. It was for a James Watt sculpture in Greenock, and we scanned it. We took loads of photographs with it, right? But it was last Christmas, and it had holes everywhere. So I was wondering if your software might be better, because I had to spend like the whole of loads over Christmas trying to sculpt it in Blender to get it looking like the James Watt sculpture, because then they went to use the CNC, like they made it a big head.
Have you still got the photo set?
I haven't got the photo. Yeah, I could find them some way, but not at the moment. I don't know where they are.
So I would run the same photos through. How long ago was that? Because that's another point. If you've got like a set of photos and you run them through this software, like if I had them 5 years ago, if I run them through the software now, I'm going to get much better results. So if you are capturing something that is quite historical, then it might be worth thinking about that, archiving your photos, because especially once AI is introduced, the quality is going to get a lot better. But yeah, I'd run the same photos through this software. Use the masking technique as well, possibly, and that helps the software then understand the shape.
Definitely, yeah, because I was spending so much time trying to sculpt it, and like it wasn't that high a budget, and I had to like get it done.
Well, James, if you want some help, let me know.
Yeah, definitely. I'd like to check out that software. Is it Metascape? Is it?
Metashape.
Metashape. Okay.
I'll put the link in.
Thanks. Yeah.
Great.
Yeah, a quick question from me for Kirk as well. When filming out, like when capturing something outside, do you think like a polarizing filter would help with like filtering some of the glare and some of the highlights, and that would help with the scan? Or have you tried using something like that? Or
yeah, the polarizing filter basically will reduce like light or glare from your object. So if you I mean, that's another technique for capturing kind of metallic stuff or very glossy stuff. Yeah, but you might still have a lot of light or blowout on the actual kind of you're taking photo. Actually, no, you probably wouldn't. No, I've used it more for reducing kind of glossy glare.
okay.
But never for I should imagine that would probably help. But it as long as it's not affecting the because whatever the color of your model is going to be baked into your final texture.
Ah, okay, yeah.
So that's just something I think to bear in mind.
Yeah.
can I ask Luciano a question?
Sure.
I really loved the ending animation. How did you do the camera move? Is that an algorithm thing, or is that did you
No.
do that by hand?
I made like basically the first frame where it starts, the final where it ends, and then based on that like amount of movement, then I just winged it and pushed it up and down a couple of times, just till it felt right that it would die down the energy, and that was it. It's basically in the x-axis.
Oh, because I mean, it adds so much to it. It really kind of, and I've been thinking about that, and I was like, oh, I don't know how to do that.
A lot of people I've seen that, for instance, in Blender you have this what's it called, the cycle modifier. No, not the cycle one. There's a sign modifier that you can add to the curve, and also the modifiers have an area of influence. And if you enlarge that area, then it does the fading from like the curve to still, and so it's easier to handle. But then you still need to get the right frequency and the right strength so it works well. But yeah, it's completely possible to do it like in a more parametric way. But I felt like for such a short camera movement where it just goes down and up and down, then it's just easy to imagine. And that's where I was saying before, when you would want to use something like maybe like motion capture or some stuff like that, you could potentially just grab a ball, for instance, grab a ball with your mouse and press record and play and move your mouse in the same fashion that you'd want that movement to work. So if you move your mouse up and down and are able to do the same movement that you want, then you can point your camera to that object and then get that same effect.
Oh, I didn't think of that. That's great.
It's kind of like doing motion capture in a way.
Yeah. Okay,
So
thank you. Yeah, that's great.
That's why I feel like it's more frowned upon than it should be, because all of these techniques, now that we get more faster rigs and more real-time stuff embedded in our software, it's much easier to take advantage of it. Like I've seen animators, for instance, when they want to do like a character jumping around, or they would just grab a ball and animate the ball, imagining the torso, and give the rhythm to the shot. So they animate the entire shot of the jumping around just with the ball. Once they get that in, then it's easier to add the feet, add the arms, add the rest of the body, because basically all the rest of the movement comes from that first initial ball. And you could do that again. You just grab the ball, press record, press play, and start moving your mouse in the same kind of fashion. And then that will give you the initial curve and the initial motion that you want. Then you can clean it up if you want, but you got in your graph editor and in your keyframes that rhythm. Right?
Yeah, that's great, Tim. Thank you.
Cheers.
Hey, can I ask? You know what you said about a camera tracking? Have you tried using the constraint to an empty, the damped track constraint? Because you can afterwards you can pair the empty to the head or whatever, and then there's like a instant feedback. Like when the head moves, the camera moves automatically, but there's a damp thing, so it doesn't look. It looks more realistic. So you're not actually doing the work. So every time you're gonna change the character movement, the camera movement is gonna be a realistic. What's the word? Response, like as a natural response of a person reacting to the action. So it'd always be connected. If you use empty, that's your pair to the head or whichever body part you want, and then you do the constraint from the camera to the empty.
Does the damp track do overshooting?
What is overshooting?
Like when, for instance, like the head is.
You would have to move the empty out of manually in those kind of instances. But that's the cleanup. Yeah, but that'll be the cleanup. Let's say in some cases you need to move it, so you would use like multiple empties to kind of control that.
No, but I mean, for instance, because normally what will happen in a camera is like you follow the subject and you always go a little bit behind the subject, right? So the subject arrives and then the camera kind of keeps going and then comes back.
Well,
right?
You can always play with influences and the things like that. I'm just saying that's like you don't have to do any manual kind of imagining things. You have that automatic thing, and then you can tailor it afterwards. It's like as a foundation thing.
Yeah, that sounds great. Yeah, I've never used it for cameras, to be honest.
Oh yeah, definitely check it. And then you obviously have the depth of field as well as empty, and all those empties like just follow the character, so you're not doing any work. You're just like tailoring it in a little bit.
I'm gonna try that.
I just thought of something else very quickly, Luciano.
Yeah.
You know, the Unreal Engine has like the camera thing where you can use the trackers, like the Vive controllers and stuff, to move the camera around. Is there? I know there's like VR support in Blender, but could you do that potentially as well?
I'm not sure how far it is. I know that you can attach things to the VR, like if you get the branch, because the VR inspection, that the one that comes with every Blender right now, only allows you to get into the scene and with the headset. Like, it's super simple. You put the headset on and you turn it on and you're inside your scene. But that doesn't have any control over the scene from within VR. And then there's a branch where they're working, which is called VR Actions or something like that, or XR Actions, where you can assign things to the controller. So you assign a controller and say, I can move with this controller. And potentially, if you use the move action with the controller, you could grab the camera and move it around, right? And press play and record, and you just start moving your camera around and do your camera act with that. That would perfectly work. It just needs a little bit of fiddling. I'd love to actually test a little bit more of that, but it's going that direction. I think the cool thing about VR today and all of these other technologies that are mixing up is that you can use them all like when they're comfortable. Like VR is great to like paint stuff in there, right? It's cool. But for animating a character, it's much harder. Or for like looking at your scene, it can be great to look at it on a perspective of a human. But then if you want to actually align and move stuff around, it's not really easy and not really fast. But if you can combine that in an easy way, that you can just like pop in the headset whenever you want to do the stuff that's easy in VR, and then take it out and use the mouse for the rest of the stuff, like changing properties and changing colors and changing this and that, that's where the power is.
Fantastic. Oh, I was just going to say, Gareth, did you?
Yes.
Did you previously you had a question for?
Yes.
For
Yeah. For Luciano.
Did you?
Luciano, I noticed you use Rigify quite a lot. Do you ever not use Rigify? Do you ever just create your own rig for certain situations?
Yes and no. I try to. The thing is, I try to use Rigify as much as I can, because, like, I can rig by hand. I've made rigs. Actually, maybe I can show you quickly. Maybe an old rig that I have. Just give me 1 second. So the first like animations that I did with the Lollipop Man, the character that I have in my channel, like the original, like, I don't know, 8 years ago animations, I learned to rig because I wanted to rig a character, right? And at that point I didn't know anything about Rigify, and it was there already. It existed. It was a little bit crappier than it is today. Like today is much more advanced, much more polished, I would say. The problem that I see with rigging by hand is that when you're like, as I explained before, you most of the time what you really want to do is just grab your character and animate it. You don't want to deal with the rigging, or at least as you can, right? And so that's why an auto rig is great, because it also is consistent. So every time that you make a new character, the controllers are the same. They're all there, right? Maybe you do some tweaks. Maybe it has like a flapping thing and here there, like a different face. But most of the body is a biped character. Most of the time, you just need the same things. You need the bendy controls here. You need the elbow. You need the shoulder. You need the torso. So why reinvent the wheel every time that you're going to animate a character if all you want is to animate the character, right? And so the other thing that Rigify has is that it's very flexible to redo the same thing again. And because most of the time you're either animating a biped or a quadruped or stuff like that, really, unless it's something specific that you want to do, I don't find it that necessary. Also, that comes from the idea of production, right? If you're, for instance, say you're doing a pilot for a show and you need 10 characters, if you build them all by hand, you need to make sure that they're fairly similar so you can share animation between one and the other one. Because if you name one bone differently from one character to the other one, the animation on that bone would not transfer. And for instance, now I'm working in this a small movie in the Netherlands, and most of the characters, actually all the characters, have a rigified body with a custom face. And the custom face is a little bit of a pain, but they've also created their own system that is consistent for every character, so you can transfer animation between them. But it's much easier when you have a consistent system, and I'm not gonna build my own rig, right? Like my own auto rig, so that consistency happens, because whenever you're rigging multiple characters, you're gonna have to, or you're gonna want that most of them have the similar rig. And in fact, I've worked in productions when that's not the case, and that they feel like, no, because we need to be able to build everything from scratch and every rig. And I remember productions where the rigs were simply not compatible one with each other, even though they were the same proportions, they were fairly similar. And you're like, well, I did a walk and a run, that like now I need to transfer it to the other character. I need to do it again. So that's like a huge waste of time. But in any case, let me show you very quickly. I have it here. Lollipop Man. This is an old rig. Where is it? Yeah. In the meantime, you can ask more questions or keep on going while I find this rig.
Yeah, I have a question for you, Luciano. Since you were animating a Spider-Verse character, I was just thinking, how would you go about animating a character on twos? If you're doing a scene that involves a camera movement, would you animate the camera by hand and do it on twos as well? Or would you just animate the camera normally and make it on ones, because that could create sliding issues and things like that?
That's a big one.
Yeah.
For Spider-Verse, I don't know how they solved it, but basically what they did is they moved the character on twos in camera space. So you hold a pose for 2 frames, but the character has to maintain the same exact relationship towards the camera.
Okay.
And so there was this one guy that created a plugin for Blender, which is kind of like a script that does exactly that. You do your animation on twos, and then the script will calculate the distance for the camera and push it where it should be, so it's in the same position in camera space, so you don't get that flickering that you normally do. Because I also asked myself that question when I saw the film, because I had tried doing like a fluent camera with a character on twos, and I was getting a weird strobe. And so that's basically the trick. You need to make sure that the character in that second pose stays in the same camera distance, exactly the same one, while the camera keeps on moving, so you don't get this strobing motion.
Okay.
Let me, for some reason, my Explorer kind of crashed. Windows, thank you.
Luciano, I've got a question for you.
Go for it.
Do we need to actually make the parenting on all the body parts like hand, feet, and etc. before using the Rigify, or Rigify just eliminates those processes?
Depends on what do you mean like by parenting. For instance, if you want to, you're talking about like the spaces for like.
For example, the hand. No, the hand has got, for example, 25 different parts.
Yeah.
Do we need to actually make them parent logically, all the fingers and stuff first, then use the Rigify?
Yeah, what you do in Rigify, because Rigify has its own like sample types. Each sample type basically has a beginning and an end. And so you just match the beginning to its parent. So for instance, the finger has 3 little bones that it creates, and then you parent those to the hand. You parent just the first one to the hand. And because Rigify will understand that that's the first bone, then all the rest will come with the hand. Because it's like a hierarchical parenting. It will create IKs and all of that, but it will know that everything that goes in that like section of the finger needs to be parented to the hand at the end of the day. Same thing with the hand, like with the arm to the shoulder. It will do exactly the same. It will think, okay, this is where it starts, this is where it ends. Everything here should be part of this master bone, which would be the shoulder, and so on.
Okay, thank you.
So you, that's why it's good to start with the Rigify like meta rig, because it already has all of that built in. So when I first started, I would just create Rigify, readjust the proportions, and do it. I used that a couple of times, and then I started investigating how the rest of the meta rigs would work. And literally everything is connected by just one parent, direct parent relationship, and then Rigify would create it the way it's supposed to be.
Sure, thank you.
Yeah, no problem. So I got a file right here. Wait, development. Yeah, any other questions in the meantime?
I've got another one. I was struggling kind of with this animation that I was doing, but how easy is it to add a complete Rigify rig to like a standard T-pose model? Like,
so it's super easy. It takes 5 minutes. I think I did it in a previous London meetup when we did it live. The last time I think we did it live, and I did like a 5 minute demo on rigging a character basically, and I went from scratch, and I went super fast obviously, and was super sloppy, but that got me a rig that was working, like skinned and everything. Like considering if you don't have a face, for instance, it's really quickly. So let me show this screen. This is an old rig that I did for this character, and this was all done by hand. And it behaves the same as a Rigify rig would behave, right? You have the main controller, you have like a full controller to move everything, you have a controller for the eyes. Then in this particular case, you have like separate eyes that you can move around. So if you want to make one bigger and one smaller and give it a little bit more love, and you can squash and stretch the body. So this part is the more custom, but I could have potentially used Rigify for the arms, the legs, and then just put a one-made bone and do my custom stuff for the body there, right? Because all of the rest of the stuff are pretty standard. You get like a controller to bend the arm there, bend it there. And really all it is this. It's a bunch of bendy bones controlled by other bones that are shaped as a control. And even, in fact, you can see that I copied more or less how the Rigify rig works in this way. Like you get one roll there by scaling that controller, but how time consuming was to learn how to do this by hand wasn't worth for me, for my use, what it takes to do it in Rigify. That's the deal for me, at least. It's good to understand because then you can customize when you need it. But then if I would do this same thing with Rigify, it would take a third of the time, mostly because a lot of it's just redoing the same thing. It's like connecting a constraint with another. And it's great to learn it to do it in one arm, but the moment you need to do two arms, it's doing the same again to the other side. Or in the case of a rig that I did that was previous to this one, the character had multiple arms that I was able to hide and show. And that was even harder because I had 6 or 7 arms that were supposed to all be completely fully fledged arms, and I had to rig them one by one. And in Blender, it's easy to mirror a rig from one side to the other one. But if I had to just like mirror one part to another part and realign it, that was a little bit of a pain. And that's the normal case with rigging. And so that's when I wanted to learn what's it called, the coding. And then I decided, no, okay, let's forget that. Let's do Rigify. And as I said, like Rigify, like it's, if I have, like, let me even open a character. In fact, I'm going to show you the same rig of, what's it called? Spider-Man, right? And so if I go to this one, right? This is like a demo I was doing the other day for the character. And so if you look at this, right, this is the same Rigify rig I showed at the beginning. And here I have the meta rig. So if I just bring her back to T-pose, right? And I'm going to hide all the crap, right? Just hide this and then hide that. Is it the same one? No. Yeah. I want this one, and then I had the rig, and then all this stuff can go home. You can see from this that if I create a new rigify rig armature, oops, edit preferences, for some reason is off. Rigify. You can see that it's basically the same. The only difference is the size, right? This one doesn't have the face, and it only has those 1, 2, 3, 4 bones that are extra, and the rest is this exact same armature. I just replaced it in place and generated the rig, and the rig that it generates is exactly the same. I can actually just unhide that, right? This one, I can delete it, and I can generate it again. Boom. Now it's generated with all the colors and all the stuff that I chose. And because I've already weighted it, even if I select this and move it, doesn't work really. But now if I go to the body and tell it, oh, my rig is called rig. That's how it's called again now. Because I already weighted it, it's already working. Right? I need to reattach the other stuff because I did it separately. So I'll just point it to the same new rig. And then the head, I think, rig. Let's see. Yeah, everything is working. Now the eyes, the same thing. Rig. And so now it's all attached to the new rig. And that's how fast it is. So it's great for iteration because rigging is a thing that it's not only that it's complex, it takes a lot of time to understand. And so what the flexibility that Rigify brings to me also, it lets me play a lot with the positioning of the bones, for instance. And so I can just position stuff around, run it, I get a rig. And then, oh, this doesn't bend very well. Let's try moving the pivot over here. Run it again. It regenerated the rig. I can weight it again with auto weights. Most of the time works really well. And to be fair, 99% of this rig is auto weighted. I didn't do any manual weight painting. The only thing I painted was the top of the head because it was getting the head control, like the head, yeah. Because there's these little controllers here, which obviously have weight assigned. The head would get some of the weighting of that, and so you'd get like the head like being deformed badly. But that's the only thing that I needed to weight. Like even the fingers work really well. And so if you take just the time to position the bones correctly, then you get pretty good results out of the box. And so as I say, like when I say like really you can spend 5 minutes and make a Rigify rig working really for whatever need, then like it's really true. For instance, that character that you showed with the flowers and everything, it's a perfect candidate. Like just grab it on T pose, A pose, whatever, and then if anything stays outside, you just paint the weights on those. But you already have the human proportions, so that's there.
Fantastic. So I don't know. We could probably go on forever, but I personally can't. Not because I had to be somewhere else, but I'm kind of knackered. I was up at 5 o'clock this morning, and but never mind if if there are more questions. Otherwise, maybe we could maybe we should wind up. We're going to we're trying to get back into the idea of having one of these every month. And we've said the first Monday of every month. January, that might be a bit of a challenge. But if you all think it would be a good idea, we could perhaps schedule one for, I don't know, the second week or even the middle of January, if that would be useful to people. I even have a. Those of you who know me know that I'd like to embarrass myself by showing you really how crap I am at Blender. And I've started to I'm started to play with creating characters actually to put into my website about the War of the Roses, and I'm having some fun disasters which I thought I might show people next time round. But hopefully there'll be some, you know, we've got today has set the bar rather high, I think, but I'm the living embodiment of the fact that you know, presentations don't have to be hugely professional or even show enormous skills, but as long as you've got something interesting to say, we'd be delighted to receive some more presentations. And you know, they can be a lot shorter if you like, more like a sort of show and tell things. So think about it, and I'm sure Kev will want to have a word, but I'd just like to say, for those of you who indulge in Christmas, have a great Christmas. Those who don't indulge in, have a great break anyway. And who knows, maybe in a month, 5-6 weeks time, that life will be looking slightly rosier than it kind of is at the moment.
May I ask a question? Is everybody on the Slack?
Yeah.
I think
You're talking about the Blender London Slack.
Maybe if somebody's not in the Slack, it would be a good idea to put the link in or something like that.
Yeah, we'll do that, Luciano. Good shout. That's
good idea. Yeah, it's I don't know. For those who don't know the Slack, it's good. It's got quite a lot of different channels like work in progress and help and bragathons and that kind of thing. It's really useful.
Yeah, a lot of the time I found helpful people to help me when I don't know something.
Yeah, exactly. Which is brilliant.
Yeah. So yeah, in the chat there's a Slack. So
Great.
yeah, thank you guys for the opportunity again. I love the presentation. Kirk, thank you. Your presentation was like flawless. It's fantastic. I've always wanted to do some what's it called? Like photo.
I want
to ask you one question because I never got to ask any.
Sure.
Do you think there's a way that one could do photogrammetry on oneself without needing like a super rig? Because I've been trying to figure out what is the best way to do myself.
I think if you can film yourself, the trouble is though, your eyes will kind of move, and so the software will pick that up, and you'll get like digital ghosting. So it will try and build another 3D model in a slightly different position. So if you can keep your eyes closed, and then you know, maybe cut them out and add digital eyes, or but that's it. That's all you need to do. Or if you could film yourself doing that, like just swiveling slowly in your chair.
You can do it now.
Side to side. Yeah, we'll do you. Yeah, that would work in theory, I think.
Cool. Yeah, it just calls for experimentation. Like I think it's super powerful. And as you were saying, it's being widely used in VFX for digidoubles. It's crazy amount of digital scanning that they use. The first time I worked in a show, they would bring LiDAR scans of the entire place where they shot. And so the first base model that you'd get for anything environment was just a like plain LiDAR scan with like crappy textures and stuff. But from then they'll build whatever they would need actually with like lower res, but good topology and stuff like that. But it's crazy good tool.
You know, the latest iPhone 12 has got a LiDAR scanner in it now.
Yeah, I got an iPad with a LiDAR.
Yeah, blimey. I mean, you know, that's incredible.
Cool, thank you.
Yeah, and thanks for your presentation too. That's really helpful. It's like rigging seems like a completely dark art to me, you know, especially in the last few weeks. So, yeah, it's really
everyone but riggers.
Yeah, lovely. Good. Anything from you, Kev?
Yeah, I also want to thank everyone for attending and the speakers. Of course, I saw that Luciano had a really big champagne glass there for a second. And yeah, if we don't see each other this year, I want to wish everybody a happy new year, of course, because it's the end of a year. What a year! I think the good things of this year is that Blender every month they come with a new release. It's like, where are we now? Like 2.91. I don't know. It's just like goes so quick. 92. Yeah.
Yeah.
92 is coming, but we're in 91 officially.
Yeah.
And Luciano and Kirk, are you both using the latest versions, or you play on safe with like older versions with your projects?
I've been playing with a cloth modifier and filter, so I'm using the latest one. I think that's amazing. If anyone hasn't played with that, the cloth stuff.
Is it good?
Especially, well, because I work for a fashion college, so they're having cloth, and what I've done, I've actually got a photogrammetry object from Sketchfab, used the cloth modifier, dropped it onto a mannequin, and then animated the mannequin, and the cloth has kind of moved like cloth, so it's created. I mean, that was pretty mind blowing for me that worked, in free software.
Yeah, it's crazy how well it works. It's also like I did a shot, like a personal shot a couple of weeks ago, and I imported it because we did it on Maya, because the class was in Maya and they had the rigs and everything. And I brought it into Blender in Alembic, and then I added a cloth modifier on top of that because the girl had a skirt to just like not animate that by hand, because it was like very little that what I needed to see of the thing, but I just wanted to feel natural. And it's just so easy to do it in Blender. In Maya, it's a pain in the ass to do cloth. Like the quality, like the fine tuning that you can get is probably higher, but to get to that stage, you need to be like super high professional on that particular thing. And in Blender, you can get really good results, which will get you there 90% of the way with a couple of clicks. And as for the question, I always play with the latest version, and projects normally also play with it in the latest version. The only difference is right now, because I'm working on a major project, it depends on a pipeline, depends on a variety of other people. We're kind of leaning towards a 2.9.1, which I think we want to shift sooner than later, because the latest 2.92 and all of that have more like improvements in the overrides, have improvements in animation as well. And so we want to take advantage of that. And it's not such a big deal in Blender to switch versions. Like when I first started, I also got like very hooked by just downloading whatever daily build is. And I found that if you find a problem or a crash or something like that that's not letting you work, you just go back one version, two versions, and there's no problem. You're not going to lose anything, unless it's like a completely new feature that creates something in the scene that in previous versions that don't exist. Like, for instance, if you're using Alembic and then that other version uses a way older version of Alembic, something like that, it might be a problem. But 90% of the time, you can just go maybe one or two versions down where that bug didn't exist and keep on working.
Yeah, fantastic.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, I should have, I alluded to it right at the beginning, but just to say, Alex presents his apologies. I'm sure he'll be with us next time, but he was into something tonight, and he pleaded not insanity, but overwork. So we'll see him again. Great. Well, if that's it, maybe we should call it a day, call it a night. Thank you all. Just to reiterate what Kev said, thank you all very much, especially obviously Luch and Kirk, but everyone for contributing and making this really such a lovely group. Honestly, it warms my heart every time we have one of these. So many people interested in such a fascinating subject.
Yeah, thank you guys for organizing as usual. You're doing an amazing job. Thank you.
Thank you,
Yeah.
everybody, and have a lovely Christmas. See you on January.
Yeah.
Have a great week. Have a great Christmas.